Welcome to the oldest of chapels in Wieliczka, Salt Mine St. Anthony's Chapel. This chapel was established in 1698. First Mass was celebrated here a few years later. It was decorated. Unfortunately, you can't see it anymore. It was decorated in Baroque style. It's located just nearby the shaft, so the air flowing down here, circulating around, melted down all the statues. By the way, I have this tiny request. Please do not touch any statues, decorations, because they are all carved in rock salt. Humidity of human hands dissolves salt very, very quickly. And to prove that it's a rock salt, I will use my torch. So if I try to put the light,
you can see it here.
You can see beautiful structure. 78 up to 99% of walls, ceilings, floors, that's NaCl, that's sodium chloride, simply salt. Very dark color comes from minerals like clay stones, mudstones, and sandstones. Now the question is, why miners created chapels down here? Working, especially medieval centuries in the mine, was very difficult. It was dark here, there was no proper artificial ventilation system, it was very humid, very slippery. There are some dangers like underground waters, methane. There were plenty of accidents. Actually, for long centuries, miners had this kind of tradition to start shift with common prayer. They celebrated Mass each morning. They prayed twice a day, because at the end of the shift, they were saying, "Thank you, we made it." So that's why we have so many chapels down here. Now, how salt came to Wieliczka? There are actually two ways to explain, and one is waiting for us right here. We can explain the process from a geological point of view, but we also have this beautiful and romantic great legend about Princess Kinga, lady standing in the middle of the group. We'll get to geology later.
When a Polish prince called Bolesław proposed to Hungarian Princess Kinga, her father, King Bela, insisted on a traditional dowry. But Kinga came up with another idea. She knew that no rock salt was mined in Poland and decided to ask her father for a group of salt miners. She wished to find salt in Poland with their help. Without a second thought, the king presented to Kinga an entire salt mine in Hungary. The princess visited the mine on her way to Krakow. She came near the mine shaft and, surprisingly, threw her engagement ring into it. When she arrived to her new country, she requested the miners to look for salt. The result came soon. The miners discovered salt deposits near Krakow that gave Poland centuries-long prosperity. They say that Kinga's engagement ring was found in the first salt lump extracted.
What can I say? Maybe yes, maybe no. However, geologists say that salt deposit was formed in this area 13.5 million years ago, in the middle of Miocene period. At that time, there was a sea here. It was surrounded by the mountains, connected to the huge ocean. Climate was very warm and very windy. Due to tectonic movements in Europe, connection to the ocean was broken. There was no income of fresh water to the sea. What happened? Water evaporated, and salt deposit was formed. It took almost 200,000 years. And then tectonic movements came down once again, and with the second wave, Carpathian Mountains came from south and acted as huge bulldozer and crushed salt deposit. As a result, salt deposit in Wieliczka is unique because it's split and crushed. So lower layer is, let's say, flat, folding up to the surface and split, like my fingers. And this part we call bedded salt deposit. Upper layer, those are blocks of rock salt surrounded by rocks. And you can see that structure right here on the first level of the mine. Each chamber we enter, it's a block of rock salt exploited, with at least 2-meter layer of rock salt left as a safety shell. And then you will see plenty of curly corridors. In medieval centuries, miners simply looked for salt by cutting the corridors. Well, it was quite romantic just a moment ago. Let's move forward, and I will try to scare you just a little bit.
There could be lions, rock salt lion coming around howling.
I will try to make you feel like medieval miners.
Low heights.
The tall ones.
Mind your head, those who are tall.
Well, actually, mine is not tall people friendly. It teaches people to be humble very quickly in some places.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Well, miners became very religious people because it was really quite scary down here. Dark, they used very primitive clay lamps, later on iron copper lamps. There was no artificial ventilation system. It was very humid, very slippery. And there was also gas called methane, CH4. It hides in the rock mass. It was created during sedimentation process out of leftovers of woods, dead animals floating in the sea. It's a very tricky gas because you can't see it and you can't smell it. It's explosive. In a certain mixture of oxygen it's flammable, but if it becomes thicker, it becomes explosive. So of course, in the 21st century, we are safe because there is technology. If we go back in time, until the end of the 18th century, instead of technology, there was a group of miners called penitents, or simply gas burners. Penitents? I wonder why. Do you know why? Methane is much lighter than the air. It means it accumulates below ceilings of excavations before if it gets free. So those people crawled, or they walked in a very humble position, as penitents do. And they were simply burning out the gas with torches held on long poles. So let's go back in time. We'll listen to one unlikely time. Please stay where you are. I said I will try to make you scary. So now it's time.
Yeah, height.
But this is but not to me on a bumper and go on the ultimate. Maria,
This is one which I got it versus.
Funga story Haga, the horrible. Who is to follow it? To follow it. Story Haga.
Haga, the horrible.
Haga, I got a game. Mbiri, Shipopi Nezombe. No Bagazira, Dore Rehombe man. She goes, now the trouble is, how am I going to make that share Dorash? That share a kind of another canoe. How am I going to make a door for the big one, for the small one? You're so stupid. I didn't think along those lines. Like, I think my door I don't coordinate. I think so. Pindai with my door Variro. We can't open the next door, I think.
I'm pressure doors.
Technology.
Are we there?
Well, since miners prayed quite often, they needed plenty of worship areas. And sometimes those were chapels, sometimes those were places just decorated with a small painting, cross, or a statue. And we call those worship areas actually wandering worship areas, because miners were moving them wherever they were starting new excavations. Main chapels were located nearby shafts. That was the place where masses were conducted. And then on the way to the working place, there were some small areas like this one here located. On the maps, you can find 2,345 chambers connected by 240 kilometers of corridors. It's very easy to get lost. That's why you have me. So I'm your leader. I'm your boss at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yes, boss.
Anyone you say boss.
Oh, yes. When I see what Kurum said, no Saramo. Try to share the copy.
It felt more comfortable, safer.
Safer down here if they're the part of,
If they could pray.
Yeah,
It was close to the working place, so it was like, okay, I have this safe area where God is with me, and He will protect me, whatever happens.
So did they have priests then? Was who actually
For the masses, yeah, for the masses, the priest was coming down, but for the short prayers, they did it on their own. So it would be quite difficult during the shift, climb up the stairs.
Right.
Just to go for a short prayer.
For a short prayer, yes, we just do it.
But there were also some other functions. I didn't mention them yet because I can keep information for later. So couples were needed. Not only prayer, but also some other.
Like people would dine down here.
Imagine not
I felt scared, but I also got this feeling that someone is standing behind me. So that's how the story of the ghost of the mine was created, that treasure. We have our own White Lady wandering around the house, Bedlam, of course, the one that brings danger. And as you can see, well, we need to get back to the topic of dangers in the mine. Underground waters. Underground waters enter a salt deposit from north. There are huge layers of sands in the neighborhood. Water easily crosses the sands, faces salt deposit, of course dissolves salt and makes its way to the mine. And from the very beginning, miners tried to collect those waters. They used wooden buckets, leather sacks. Water was carried into big wooden vats, and then through the system of wooden pipes and wooden pumps, like this one, brine was carried up to the surface where saline works were located, and it was simply evaporated. And this machine has a very interesting name. The miners called this machine paternoster. Paternoster, our father. Can you guess why? When you pray with, okay, I will start from the opposite side. Wooden stoppers and the chain. Rosary. Okay. Well, water travels between those wooden stoppers. When stopper enters the pipe, it's hiding at the bottom of the well. Water is sucked in, flows below the wheel, behind the wheel, and then to the drainage system.
Wow.
The employees of medieval mine. As miners say that dwarves are friends, well, okay, so in front on the right side we have a foreman who is going to check how work is conducted. We have one who is pushing a cart with barrel on the top. There are two carpenters standing on the right side. The second foreman is sitting at the end of the chamber and supervising. We have two diggers on the left and one lazy boy who is welcoming. I assume that you know the story about 7 dwarfs and Lady Snow White. So why Snow White is not here?
It's melted.
Miners are very religious, but also very superstitious. And according to the miners, woman in the mine brings danger, bad luck. That's why they don't like the White Lady. Because she's the one who brings all the dangers.
So are we
Snow White is enjoying her time in spa somewhere. However, the employees. At the very beginning, from the 13th century, for 200 years, miners were actually farmers. Mine operated from October till April, because in a season, miners were needed on the fields. So being a miner became a profession starting from the 15th, 16th century. Women, those were not allowed to work in the mine until the 20th century. After the Second World War, first women showed up here as geologists. Kids, children. People very often ask if in Wieliczka kids work. So there is a discussion. From my point of view, yes, they were. Because 15, 16-year-old, according to our thinking, at our time, it's a still child. But in medieval centuries, 15, 16-year-old was already married, got children, was ready to fight for the country. So, yes, no. For sure, never slaves work down here, only free men. And when it comes to priests, going to be like I'm pretty sure you know the movie with Julia Roberts, Eat, Pray and Love. Well, sometimes chapels were established to say thank you after something dangerous happened. For example, St. Cross Chapel was established in the 17th century after a huge leakage on the, in the 19th century, after a huge leakage on the fourth level of the mine. For a couple of months, huge amounts of water were entering one of the corridors. Mine was, of course, in danger, but luckily miners managed to close the leakage. And afterwards, to say thank you, we made it, it was done, they established this chapel. However, when it comes to all the decorations, they were collected here from other chapels that were in the mine, and the chapels were in danger. So when it comes to the chapels, first of all, of course, it was a worship area. However, in the chapels, there were always burning candles standing. So it was a place where miner could collect fire if flame in a lamp went down. Chapels were also treated as a landmark. By entering chapel, passing by monument, miner was able to say, I know where I am, I know where to go. Now let's take a look at St. Kinga Chapel. Hopefully it's going to be empty. Szczęść Boże.
So Kinga is a saint.
Well, I wish you did.
Ndikunzwei futi muchiti Anglican ndo chechi yakatanga. I think so. Is this our chapel?
No. Master was John Paul. John Paul Chapel.
What's here now? This is exciting.
This is my new home.
Imagine.
I can't.
Is responsible for all dangerous professions. We actually just realized that there are so many saints connected to the mine. Even think earlier. We have Saint Anthony, who is saint patron of ore miners. We have Saint Kinga, who is saint patron of salt miners. Saint Barbara, who is responsible for all kinds of miners. And then we have Saint Joseph, who is
The Waker. Saint John the Waker. Simple ground video just because I'm always behind the scenes, so I don't see
The kingmaker.
yeah. Oh.
He's trying to say to make yourself a saint.
Let's go back to my
Arudem Goshi.
Carpenters and Saint Clement, who is a saint patron of Wieliczka parish. And there are actually two very important relics located in the main in this area. Just below the minor car, cross contains relics of Saint Kinga. This small cross in mass table contains relics of Saint John Paul II, Polish Pope. They were given to the mine by Cardinal Dziwisz, his friend. And this cross contains pieces of crosses of all Polish salt mines. It was a gift from Polish salt miners for Saint John Paul II. upstairs, those kings. Herod giving his sent.
John Paul. Yeah, John Paul.
The second.
Yeah, the first king. The first is not a saint. John Paul the second saint. That one that's Saint King.
Saka mune remains again.
Emma remains like, but it's already cheap.
Hey, there's no doubt three hembe.
I just teach it. Yeah.
These bas reliefs were carved down here. Those were big marble walls. Now they are carved in music players.
Where do you need to kind
Chandelier. Mazinzo watu mwenye marelisa a John Paul. Ndiye anotora panorama picture. Anogona panorama because inogona tendera kauda
Thank you.
that was great. Andakunzwa? I think so.
Thank you, Camilla.
She ever bought it? an artificial lake.
Artificial lake. How do you know it's artificial?
Because
This beautiful lake is artificial. It was placed here to decorate the chamber and it's filled with fully saturated and dry. It means this water contains 32% of salt already dissolved, and you can't dissolve even a gram of salt or more. If you would like to compare the salt saturation in the Dead Sea with saturation of this one is much higher. So now, ready for another part of for another staircase?
yes.
However, this one